lives thinking that they're going to get addicted. Everyone thinks they're not going to get addicted. Everyone was spoken to either by their parents or there's something on TV or whatever. Nobody thinks they're going to go that way. What we want to tell them is no. This is not done. This is not allowed. We want to talk about why. Let's have a conversation about it at a different time. Let's make a time now, tomorrow morning, to discuss why not. But the first point is to inculcate them, to actually have them understand that there are things that they absolutely are off limits, period. Later on, there's time for a discussion. It's important that kids understand, or I don't know if understanding is the right word, that they know that there are things that are simply not done, period. We've lost that art to a great extent. In our desire not to impose ourselves on them, and again, let's remember, that comes from a good place. We should not be imposing ourselves on them. It's not about my authority. It is about a authority, and I happen to be the one who is the parent who happens to know what that authority is. But it's not about me and them. It's about they need to remember that first lesson. It has to be about the child. What does the child need to hear? The child needs limits. The child needs to know that there are certain things that are no and that are yes. Absolutely, this is the way it must be, and this is the way it cannot be. Later on, so that's the nasa part. By the way, nishma is just as important. After the introduction of nasa, we do without understanding. The next stage is we ought to understand as much as we possibly can. And I think these are the sentiments that many of you spoke about. We want our children to understand why. But even before understanding why, or at least synonymous with understanding why, they have to know that there are responsibilities that they have, unquestioning responsibilities, that are absolutely necessary, period. So how do I want to take away the unhealthy authority out of my children, away from my parenting? Get the ego out of the way. Remove our ego. It's not about me. It's not about my way. And if I want to minimize the amount of unhealthy authority, don't make an issue out of myself when using that authority. Again, it's not about me. Another wonderful principle, our final reading tonight, a wonderful principle on this topic in text 10 on page 82. I guess Amy's going to read for us.
Instructions that we issue to our children must not be a product of whim, but should noticeably flow from our sense of duty and understanding of right and wrong. When we are thoughtful in the manner in which we allow or disallow a child to do something, and when we are visibly joyful when we give the child the autonomy to do as he or she wishes when appropriate, we demonstrate that whatever we permit or prohibit is not a product of a transient mood, the result of our desire to control the child, or due to our stubbornness. Rather, the child sees that our instruction is a result of careful and objective consideration and thought.
So yes, there are times that sometimes we battle our children. We say no just because, they were in a bad mood, or they really upset us with something else. That's a bad idea. It's true. First of all, it doesn't work, and it's a bad idea. So this Amy McCready in text 3 before, she has a point. She says, because I told you so is not a really good response for a child. It never was. Because when the child hears, because I told you so, what they hear is authority of this illegitimate kind. It's about you. Oh, so this is about you now. Wait a second, you want me to do something because it's about you? Is that what just happened here? And they're right. They're actually right. It's not about the parent. It's supposed to be about the kid. And so, don't worry, if you've said it a couple times, you haven't destroyed your child. It happened. I mean, don't beat yourself up for that. So we don't want to make ourselves the issue. We got to take our ego out of it. So it's not about what I want from my child. It's what is needed from the child. It's not about what I need. It's what's needed from them. And finally, so let's take an example for this of, we spoke about in the first lesson about that in Jewish law it says that a child should not sit on a place that is designated on a parent's chair. say you have in the dining room, there's a regular place where the parents sit. Children know that they don't sit in the place that their parents have. Or right when you want to sit down in the easy chair in front of the big screen TV and whatever, so your kid runs in and he gets it before you, and you're pleading with them, please, can I sit in my chair? No, that's not the way it's supposed to be. They're not supposed to sit there. It's your chair. So one way to do this is, Jimmy, get your whatever out of the chair. This is my chair, and be respectful to me, and I sit there, and you know that I sit there, that I'm your father, I'm your mother, and this is my place. And you have to respect me. Wrong. It's not going to work. It's taking a great teaching moment and completely blowing it. Absolutely blowing the moment. Instead, it's, whatever it is, Johnny, Jimmy, Yossi, Zalman. So he's sitting, please get up from the chair. That's your parent's chair. And we do not sit in a parent's chair. And again, whether the tone, I modulated the tone of the two things. The tone can be the same in both. But the point is, it's not about you can't sit in my chair. You need to learn that you don't sit in a parent's chair. It's about the child and what the child has to learn. It's not about me exerting my power, my authority over the child. So the first option pits us against the child. Okay? Who has more authority over whom? Who has more power over who? I can get you to do what I want you to do. Right? The second option tells the child that there exists an objective obligation. Okay? This is the right thing to do. A child does not sit in their parent's chair. A child doesn't call their parent by their name. A child doesn't answer back to their parent in that kind of way. Any of those things are appropriate times to say, this is not how we behave. So now we go back to that story that we started with Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak. The point of not telling him that moment about Modeh Ani, he was trying to teach. Perhaps the reason he taught it related to Modeh Ani is because Modeh Ani is the idea of submitting ourselves to God first thing in the morning. So maybe he wanted to teach that lesson related to submission, the idea of subservience to God. Maybe he wanted to teach it by saying, you know what? This is how it's done. This is how we do it. Later on, there was time to teach what the reason for that custom is. On page 83, you have a couple exercises for the week. I want to finish with the key points on page 84. Go ahead, Suzanne. Number one.
The modern day weakening of parental authority results in the societal advantages. For example, greater sensitivity to the needs of children and the discarding of many institutionalized injustices and disadvantages. For example, moral subjectivity and greater frequency of narcissistic tendencies. 2. There are two types of authority, one positive and one negative, and both are on the wane. Parents need to completely eliminate the negative authority from their parenting arsenal while embracing and reinforcing the positive type. 3. Illegitimate authority is power that is exerted for the benefit of a powerful party. The Torah exhorts the powerful, including parents, never to utilize their natural authority to oppress those with less power. 4. The duties and responsibilities that we all have toward God and society constitute the legitimate authority in our lives. Judaism places a premium on the importance of this authority, making our duties and responsibilities the center of our lives. 5. It is important for children to learn from a young age to respect this healthy authority and to have a responsibility first attitude. 6. We enhance our children's sense of and appreciation for responsibility, duty, authority by role modeling such behavior and also by not always explaining the reasons behind rules. Instead, emphasizing the importance of following rules simply because we must. 7. We minimize the amount of unhealthy authority we exert over our children by taking our egos out of the equation and not making an issue of ourselves and our authority.
Thank you very much. I want to just recommend, there's a reading after lesson 4 from this McCready. Phenomenal reading. I highly recommend it. In general, the readings after the lessons are very, very good. And I want to thank you all and have a wonderful night.